welcome back to the 20th Century Dude channel. It's a nice Friday night at the time of recording this, so I kind of figured before I wind down for the evening, why not record one more video? Because you know what? We've got the time. Let's make the most of it. As you can see here by the video quality, this might be the last time I decide to record anything, screen record anything using my that FaceTime HD camera off of iMovie, because the quality ain't exactly great. So this might be the last time I use it going forward, and maybe I'll only use it from now on if I need to record something quick. But today we are going to look at some of the past versions of Art Class Part 2, which was the most recent short film that I made at the time of recording this. It's March now. I released that back in, I think, December. And there are two versions of the script we're willing to look at. And the first one, I'd say, definitely varies a whole bunch compared to the finished product. While the second one is definitely more in line with the finished product, although there are changes I will point out because some things that were written in script would not be adapted until very later. So why don't we start with the first version? This was the one I crafted, I think, at the beginning of August when I first started to conceive it. So again, this is the one that's pretty much mostly different from the version we actually got. I believe there is no like going into the cartoon world or anything. That's not something that happens until the second draft. But in the first draft, we start with Chuck, the art teacher. He's sitting across the table from Amelia, who was supposed to be a brand new character for Art Class 2 and end up happening in any version we filmed. He's on a date with her, and basically he's starting out by telling the story of Art Class to her, and then we're going to be flashing back and whatnot as he was going to be doing this, and then explaining to her what a creative arts teacher was. And of course, she doesn't believe him because she thinks that it's puppycock that a cartoon character came to life and then just sort of played around with him. So then a flashback that actually picked up right after Art Class 1. But considering that was in 2021 when we shot that, and obviously there was a 3-year difference between the actors, Shuey had grown a mustache and he had shaved for at least part of the shoot. But then, of course, there was Charles, who had noticeably shorter hair. And I'm sure we could have used a wig for the most part, but I don't feel like that would have been believable at all. So much later, I would change it from that it takes place immediately after Art Class 1, and I decided to make it so that it's there's at least half a year, like a gap, like several months at least, in between installments, which I feel like worked out in its favor. Um, but it picks up immediately after Art Class 1. Chuck puts the eraser in his pocket and he sees Agent Owen hang out the door. And this dialogue is similar, although this time it's because Agent Owen is frightened, and this is, of course, not what he asked for in that situation, so he decides to leave. And then, of course, Chuck is grabbing him and he's like, "Please don't go. You're my last student. Get off." And then Agent Owen's like, "Get off me." And then he leaves, as happens in the film. And then his brother, called the Lazy Dude, comes out and is like, "Oh, my goodness, what did I miss?" As he says in the film. When it go to Chuck is on the phone with his mother, which was cut entirely later because it just felt like a pretty extra scene that we didn't really need. He's basically explaining to her that the class didn't work out, and she basically, critiques him and criticizes him and over the phone. And that's basically what the scene also with Hunter was kind of about, which is why it was also a redundant scene, which is why I didn't adapt it for the second draft anyway. We then go to the playground from Dandelions, and this is where the original Dandelions connection was going to be, where he sits down on a park swing, and then he grabs the yellow notebook that was, sat there at the end of Dandelions, and he recognizes it, that it was from his former student. So it was going to be a different student that connected to Dandelions. But anyway, so he moves to the next swing where he notices, for whatever reason, a small card on it with the phone number 717-666-2198. And as you may remember, that is actually the Devil's phone number from the Devil Drinks decaf. So that was going to set up something with Chuck, and he was going to call that later. And then the eraser falls out of the pocket, and as he goes in his car to leave, the cartoon character ejects itself from the eraser, and then it was how it's going to come back to life. Similar to how it was in Art Class 2, the finished product. But I just had it so he just simply came out of the eraser in the classroom, which might have been a more lazier way of making it happen, but we had to make him come back somehow. Chuck goes home, and Hunter Corbin is watching something on the TV screen. Now, for those of you who don't know who Hunter Corbin is, he's a friend of mine. He was the voice of the Star Pilot from my Star Pilot short film, and we are going to make it so that the Star Pilot was an actual short film, and that Hunter was playing as himself in a way, a very obnoxious version of himself as a voice actor. So he's basically gloating about himself and basically demeaning Chuck the entire time he's there, being a horrible roommate. And then they also watch snippets from the Devil Drinks decaf, which is sort of how, again, how that happened in Art Class 2. Then Chuck goes to call the number, and the devil picks up on the other end. Now, the reason I decided to make the big connection in Art Class 2 more connected to Dandelions and the Devil Drinks decaf, I was going to make it so that the devil was the overarching thing that connects all the short films together. But I decided to make it so, Dandelions is the one that sort of ties it more neatly together because, for one, I wasn't really sure how we were going to get the devil actor back, and of course we didn't at all, because honestly, who knows where the heck he is on the globe right now. I don't even have his number. So temporarily I had it written that we were just going to use sound bites from the Devil Drinks decaf film. I was going to take the sound bites from the restaurant scene and then repurpose it for the phone call, and then that was going to be temporary dialogue until we actually get the devil actor in there. But that didn't actually happen, of course. And then Chuck goes in the next day, sees a whole bunch of students waiting for him because his wish came true. But of course, if there was going to be an Art Class 3, that was going to follow up with this, sort of the consequences of having those students there, because, he made a deal with the devil. But then we cut back to the restaurant, Chuck on his date with Amelia, and then the cartoon character attacks them. Of course, there's the similar, you have been erased. He tries to get the eraser out, but it's not there. And the cartoon man happens to stumble upon his date and basically starts to hit on her, and Chuck is like, I don't think so. So he decides to draw him a cartoon woman. And then, of course, there's the line of, hey, handsome, want to go to Acme and cause some mayhem. So that's basically enough for the cartoon character to leave Chuck alone. And then there's going to be a different post-credits stinger. Agent Owen and the interrogator from the interrogation short film are actually at a table sitting together. And the dialogue is, of course, much different than what it was in the final film. And instead of going after the cartoon character, Agent Owen was simply tasked with going after Chuck, and he basically is tasked. He has was the marker, they call it the magic marker, that brought the cartoon character to life, and he's looking for that. And I sort of had that concept there in the final draft, and he basically wants Agent Owen to retrieve it. And then there's going to be another post-credit scene with the kleptomaniac. There's supposed to be a different kleptomaniac cameo in there where he actually shows up. He sees the eraser and yellow notebook sitting at the park, and he picks up the both of them. And it can be assumed then that he's going to do something also with the Devil's number. So now we're going to go on to the final draft of the film. where it still varies a bit much from the final product, but I'd say it's mostly in line with the final cut of the film. So Chuck still retains that sort of date aspect, like in the first draft, except this time they're walking in a park. They make it much easier, and the dialogue is somewhat similar. Again, this didn't end up being filmed, otherwise, this would have been in the final film, obviously. Of course, he tells her the story of Art Class 1, and she doesn't believe him, so we then cut back to the scene where Agent Owen decides to quit. And at the time, I didn't have it so that he's sad that his girlfriend from Dandelions died. That sort of came in much later, out of the script. But the dialogue is almost there beat for beat when he decides to leave. Of course, this is where I added the lazy dude lines. Is there any time where you're not sleeping? And then he replies, is one ever truly awake? And then Chuck breaks the fourth wall. That is all in the finished film, so that scene otherwise pretty much plays verbatim. The scene with Hunter Corbin stayed in there. Of course, obviously, this was not recorded for the film. Of course, obviously, it would have been in there then. But all the stuff then with the devil was pretty much cut. And then, of course, the Cartoon Man comes out of the eraser in the class, in the drawing class, which is in the film. And then scenes are switched around a little, but then we cut to Chuck is driving on the road, and then this is where the Cartoon Man finds him. And he tries to get the eraser and erase the Cartoon Man, but of course, not this time. He draws a magic door, and they go into the cartoon world, which happens in the final film. And there's the lines pretty much verbatim as they are in that scene. And then there's the montage where they're drawing things and having fun. Chuck draws the acorn. Cartoon Man draws a squirrel, and that's in the film. I have also had it that Chuck draws a woman, although, and then Cartoon Man draws flowers to give to her. Although, being that he was gonna draw one later anyway, it was kind of redundant. And then they draw a bear and they run from the bear, which is in the film. Chuck draws a board game. They play a game, of course. Cartoon Man draws a dog, and the dog sees a squirrel and chases after it. And they give a horrified look because it's assumed that the dog kills the squirrel. And of course, have it there that Chuck draws a drumstick instead of the drum set, and then they have a jam session. And then finally, the Cartoon Man draws a whiteboard and makes a mini version of himself, which I cut out of the film. And then afterwards, where Chuck's like, that is fun, the Cartoon Man, expresses that it was fun to be a student. All that happens basically verbatim. And then Chuck goes back, and his car is missing, as it happens in the film. And this is where the cameo for the kleptomaniac was supposed to be, where it's revealed that he stole his car. We were going to film a 30-second cameo with the kleptomaniac, but of course, due to circumstances of time not being well managed, we'll put it that way, that didn't end up going in the film. And then we cut back to the park where Amelia still doesn't believe him. And then the Cartoon Man makes a little cameo for himself, says, that's all, folks. And then the only post-credit scene, which appears in the film, Agent Owen receives a phone call, this time at his house instead of at a building somewhere. And the interrogator calls him about the Cartoon Man, bring him in for questioning. And what I made different was this doesn't pick up immediately after the interrogation happens. It's actually right before. Of course, I went and changed that to make it easier while we were filming it. But otherwise, yeah, those were the original versions of Art Class 2. So you could see some noticeable differences there. But otherwise, I hope you enjoyed what you saw today. So Art Class 3 will be on the way. It will follow up, obviously, the final cut of the movie that you see on YouTube right now. So Stay tuned for our Class 3, hopefully next year, and hope to catch you on the fly. See ya.